Deflin is your speaker, right? Hey Jeff, how you doing?
Oh, no, that's
Robert. All right, we got some folks coming in. We have so I think you're gonna up the outdated link as well, right? All right. So we had an outdated Zoom link, so we're gonna need a little bit of time for folks to shuffle in on this.
Gotcha. No worries.
Robert, what's going on with you these days?
Hey man, how you doing? Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Good. Just working away here. Sorry I wasn't able to come down there. Would have loved to be in person.
I can't believe
love that
that's
place.
why that's why we decided to make it a hybrid because you know hybrid is really a great way to go because you have two demographics. You have the folks that they can't break free, and then the folks that can break free but don't want to show up in the evenings. So it allows us to get a good chunk of people.
Great. Looking forward to hearing and participating.
Yeah, I'm gonna send a email to our list as well
All right.
with the updated
I'll let
Zoom
you
link.
get everybody online here. I'll tune in when you're ready.
Oh yeah, I'm just about ready. My God. I know.
Hey, Jeff.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff.
Absolutely. Not a lot of people ever want to hear me talk about mobile home parks, so I always get excited when people want to hear about it.
I think it's an interesting topic.
It is. It definitely is.
Never
Yeah.
heard anything on it. So I'm looking
Nice.
forward to it.
Cool. Perfect.
No, I gotta. Here. I'm gonna be bugging people's inboxes, but oh well. I know. Yeah, the whole screen. I think if I change the calendar invite, that'll be enough for folks. Yeah, okay. Let's just see here 1 second. Send one quick email. We'll get started in a little bit. All right, let's do so this is what we're gonna do before we get started. And as people maybe check in, just do a quick intro to some of you guys who are new or don't know one another. I'll introduce myself first. Mark Prober, CPA. I specialize in advanced tax reduction strategies for real estate investors, entrepreneurs, and high income earners. And we run a tax practice, obviously. And I have two cats. Patricia, why don't you introduce yourself? You're on mute. Oh yeah, it's still here. Still here. Okay.
I'm Patra Francis, and I help business owners maximize their profitability and minimize their taxes. And we focus on my niche is chiropractor.
Kiana, you want to say something?
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Kiana. I am the Member Experience Director here at the Commerce Club, where we're hosting this event at today. And I'm happy to have all of you on this call. I look forward to hearing everything.
Cool. All right.
Hi there.
Jeff.
Jeff.
Hey, Robert, I mean. Yes.
Insignia Realty, we own and operate commercial real estate, shopping centers, and office buildings like this 8-story one by the Chattahoochee River Ridge in North Sandy Springs and others.
Nice.
So I'm in
Oh, which
charge of
place in North
leasing and
Sandy
managing.
Springs?
What's that?
Ooh, which building in North Sandy Springs?
River Ridge, 9040 Roswell Road, right by the Chattahoochee.
Nice.
Cool.
And across the street, we just acquired North River Shopping Center that's about 117,000 square feet. And we plan to redevelop it into mixed use as well in the coming
Oh,
years.
beautiful. Nice. You know, I really want to have a talk on qualified opportunity zone funds because they're really fun topics. But I feel like the whole law is going to change dramatically in the next few months, so I'm holding off. But eventually, we'll talk about some cool stuff there. And if you're doing development, we have someone coming in to talk about the R&D tax credits and the 45L tax credits that apply for real estate developers as well. So that's cool stuff.
Yeah, good.
Um,
Looking forward to continuing to network with you and the others, Mark.
Yeah. All right, Jeff, I'll let you introduce yourself and let's get started.
Sweet. So my name is Jeff Flynn. I'm a mobile home park owner. That's kind of my whole business model. I've been in it for a few years. I was in the Navy. Before that, I was a commercial broker. I worked at a firm that only sold mobile home parks. So I got a really cool opportunity to kind of get paid to learn about it. Did that for a couple of years, saved up some money, and then wanted to start buying the parks myself. So I got into it a few years ago that way, just with myself and my partner. And then to date, we've got 9 mobile home parks across the Southeast. We're working on the 10th one now, so hopefully that's supposed to close sometime, I think mid-June. But yeah, that's what I do. It's a really interesting asset class. It's the only thing I do. I don't do any other type of real estate, so I know a lot about one specific thing, which I think is a pretty cool way to go.
Cool. Jeff, I'll let you, I know you wanted to present something as well. And so let's get into talking about mobile home park investing.
Yeah, do you guys want me to share the slide deck I had there?
Yeah, here, let me allow you to share your screen.
All right, let
Oh
me
yeah, we have multiple real estate club. Come on in. Yeah. Yeah. Hey.
Cool. I'm Tommy Burke.
Hey, Tom, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Hey, Liz, good to see you. Hey, have a seat. Oh, we got some folks coming in. Come on. Have a seat. More folks coming in. You came in right in time. Yeah. All right. We got some other folks there. So actually, why don't we do some more intros? Nigel, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey, I'm Joe Barnes. I do commercial real estate with Coldwell Banker, the corporate offices out of the commercial office in Buckhead, and I work with 10 other offices, Coldwell Banker offices, helping their commercial teams and people. And on the side, I'm the mayor of Chops Private Club.
Cool. Liz?
I'm Liz Gullickson. I have been in real estate for the last couple of years. I'm with Lawrence Sharp Realtors out of Decatur. Yeah, glad to be here.
We got one more guy right here.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tommy Burke. I'm with Capital One Business. So I work with middle market companies in Atlanta and Alabama, helping them set up our business card programs to streamline payments and maximize rewards. Thanks for having me.
Oh, nice. Yeah, we've had some really fun talks on credit card points. Geeking out on that
Capital One.
Capital One Venture X.
Yeah.
Yeah. They got
We just had a new welcome offer, 400,000 miles.
how much you guys spend?
150,000 in the first 3 months. I'm sorry, 30 grand.
Yeah, I think I did that.
For 150,000 miles.
I prepaid some costs to get there.
Did you? So if you spend another 250 in your first 6 months, then you'll get an additional 250,000 miles.
So what I'm doing is I'm working with Zelle money, so I can do my payroll through credit cards, even though I pay a 3% extra penalty for it. I write it off on my taxes, and I get more than that back in the form of points.
You're absolutely brilliant.
So
This is what we try to teach people. I came from Internet,
yeah,
and that's exactly what we were trying.
yeah, that stuff is all. And Cap One is like the really good stuff. So yeah, very cool. Jeff. So let's take it away and let's have some fun. And also,
All
you
right.
can see the screen there. So we got audio from the computer and the screen up there.
All right, let me know when you guys can see that.
Yeah.
Is that showing up for you guys?
Yes.
Cool. All right. Well, like I said, I'm Jeff Flynn, and I'm a mobile home park investor. So Patra and I know each other through RaiseMaster. So Patra, I appreciate you having me on here today to talk about it. I don't get to talk about mobile home parks a lot. It's at least in social settings. Every time I tell people what I do, they're just like, "What? You sell houses? What do you do?" It's a very odd thing, which I'm aware of. But to sum up, I think that's why it's a really unique asset class, because a lot of people just straight up do not think about it. It's one of the only asset classes I think anytime I get on a talk like this, I have to explain what it is before I kind of get into like the advantages of it, because a lot of people are kind of unaware. So to sum it up, a mobile home park is really just land that you're renting out, right? You'll see a lot of homes at parks, but really all it really is in terms of the asset is a lot, and you're renting the tenant their utilities, the land itself, and pretty much the infrastructure. So you got roads, things like that. But the houses themselves are actually the tenants. So it's a little bit of a strange arrangement. It's a mix of home ownership and renting. The tenants typically own their homes. I would say the vast majority own them free and clear. So really all they're paying for their living expenses is lot rent. So you'll hear me talk about that a lot. Lot rent, it's basically just renting that certain space in the park. So yeah, that's really what it is at its core. It's a very simple business model. It's been around for over 60 years at this point. It's a very popular thing, but it's not to be confused with RV parks. A lot of people think these mobile homes come in and out, and I'll get more into that later. But the average tenant in a mobile home park stays for around 15 years. So they move in and they stay for a very, very long time. So why do they make sense, right? It's a really weird thing, right? Why, people drive by mobile home parks all the time, don't really think about it. Certainly don't think about it as an investment most of the time, but it's got some really unique aspects to it. So one of them is the tax advantages to it. So I'm sure you guys are all going to be super aware with good ways to save on taxes. Mobile home parks have one of the best depreciation aspects to any asset class out there. Short of like gas station and some other things like that, there is a lot that we can depreciate on a mobile home park, which I'll get into a little bit later, which is counterintuitive because it's, like I mentioned, it's basically just land. So you wouldn't think that's the case, but it is in fact the case. And then there's a huge supply constraint. So if any of you guys are in development, I want you to just picture going to your town hall and saying, "Hey, we'd like to build a brand new trailer park in the city limits," and just imagine how that would go. And it just basically doesn't happen across the entire country at any given time. I think there's about 20 to 50 mobile home parks under construction. What it really boils down to is the tenant base takes money out of the tax system more than they contribute because of their income levels most of the time. So cities that will put all sorts of constraints in the way of anybody trying to develop one. So really the supply that is out there is all that's out there, and it's actually slowly starting to dwindle, because what will happen is a lot of times these parks in certain areas, they're not the highest and best use of that land. Somebody comes in to develop something much bigger, and slowly over time we see less and less mobile home parks out there. So it's a unique advantage as an owner. You don't really have to worry about somebody coming in down the street, opening up a brand new park and screwing with your supply and demand. It really is like you can go into it with near certainty that you will not have any new competition in the future. So that's another aspect of it. Finally, it's really, really predictable. It's a really boring asset, honestly, to talk about, because you're really just renting land. But when the economy booms, they do just fine. When the economy tanks, they do even better, surprisingly. It's pretty simple concept, but basically, as when we go into recessions, people usually go down a step in their housing, and there just quite frankly isn't a step lower in terms of affordability than mobile home parks, right? If you're just paying lot rent, I personally, the most I charge any tenant for lot rent is $450 across our entire portfolio. You can't find a place to live and have all four walls be yours for less than $400 a month. So it's a really, really stable asset. They really picked up in popularity after 2008. Basically, all these bigger groups that had multifamily and all sorts of different asset classes had turmoil in 2008, which they're fine from now. But they looked at mobile home parks and they looked at their occupancy and they looked at their collections and they said, man, they just went through this unscathed. So that's when they really picked up in terms of institutional popularity. A little bit about me. It looks like the Lincoln here part got taken out, but I exclusively focus on mobile home parks, right? I started in the Navy and then I was a broker at a firm that just sold these parks. Then I started buying them myself. And at this point, we've got a portfolio of 9 mobile home parks across Alabama, Kentucky, and Mississippi. So it's all I do all day, every day. So it's my focus, and it's a really interesting asset class to be in. But in terms of the business model, like I said, it's super simple. Like if you look at this park here, there looks like a lot going on. There looks like there's a lot of roofs to maintain, decks. You can't imagine how many toilets are here. The only thing that this park maintains are the roads you see and utility lines under the ground, essentially, right? The tenants mow their own grass most of the time. They pay their own utilities most of the time. And almost every normal mobile home park run by like a professional operator, all of the homes are the tenants. Sometimes you'll see parks that rent out the homes too. I've done that. I think it's a mistake, honestly. It's just a really difficult thing to manage, but that's the basic model. So all of these residents you see here, they have their own homes. And what's interesting about these, a lot of these you'll notice, the mobile homes come in 2 types. They're single wides or double wides. And it's about $5,000 just in moving costs per unit. So if you have a double wide and you wanted to move out of this park, you're looking at least $10,000. So that kind of starts to show why, hey, it is really not something that you have a lot of turnover in, because that's extremely expensive. And also you see a lot of price fluctuation even in a given market. You might see a park at $800 a month, and down the street people are at $200 a month. And that's usually just like a mom and pop owner who's owned it for a really, really long time. But people don't up and move and go to that other park because they got to come out of pocket $10,000. So it's a really, really difficult thing to do. And honestly, the simplest way I could describe it that most people tend to understand is just it's an HOA that owns the land, right? We make sure that all the tenants are keeping their grass cut, make sure they're keeping their homes maintained, and we're just kind of enforcing that. We're not doing the maintenance, we're not doing all that. We're just really enforcing it, and we kind of own and manage all the common areas. So that's the simplest one, right? And like HOAs, they can be annoying sometimes, right? Nobody likes getting the assessments from their HOA, but most people are willing to live in an HOA and prefer it because they know that it will be a well-maintained community. So it's the same thing with mobile home park tenants. They're on the lower end of the income spectrum, but they still want to live in a safe, nice community just like everybody else. So I kind of talked about this a little bit in the last slide, but that's why tenants choose to live in these, right? It's a far, far lower housing option than pretty much anything else out there outside of like government subsidized programs, right? Like Section 8, that sort of thing. The reason being is these houses are manufactured, and you'll hear a lot of people refer to it as manufactured housing. I always just call it mobile homes, but they're manufactured in a factory and then they're delivered on site. So you can imagine how that keeps the cost down, right? They just do the same thing over and over and over. They're not built all the time with the exact same materials you would see in a house. So some of them are, some of them are not, but more of the affordable ones, they're not the typical 2x4 stick framing. They have slightly smaller versions. The drywall is this like paneling stuff. You can't drywall a home and then take it down the road. It's going to crack into a million pieces, right? But that's kind of the basics of it. And the reason they stay affordable is because the housing prices in these cases are really, really low. So like this one you see right here, this is a double wide. This one is used, but a brand new one is probably 100 to 150,000. A single wide like this one you see on the left, brand new, that might be $50,000 to $60,000. So it's a really, really low cost for the home. And then what people do is they get a loan on that, they buy the home, they move it into the park, and then they're just paying a lot rent. So they're not having to develop a lot. They're not having to pay for all the utilities to get run to a private lot. So that's kind of how we can keep the cost low. But they are communities, right? A mobile home park, you're really buying a neighborhood. You're buying a community. The people stay there for years. And so they know each other. They talk to each other. They're friends with the neighbors. It's a really unique asset class because you have to turn one around. You have to be really careful because if it's a bad neighborhood, it's difficult to get that fixed. It's difficult to get that turned around. And also another reason tenants love buying these homes and living in mobile home parks, they do own their own house. So it's not the same as owning a single family house that will appreciate more than likely over time, right? Mobile homes tend to depreciate over time, but they do own the home, and they can also, they don't have to share walls with the neighbors. So if they were looking at the same budget of around $1,000 a month, if they're getting a loan for the home and the lot rent, their other option would be like a 2-bedroom apartment where they're going to be sharing walls with neighbors, and not really nice luxury apartments either. They're going to hear neighbors up late and all that sort of stuff. And so the tenants love owning their own house. They take pride in their lawns a lot of the time. I've got tenants with multiple koi ponds in their lawns. Like they're not people who are in 1 year out the next. Like they stay for a very, very long time. So yeah, again, this formatting got a little bit messed up when we transferred it, but this is kind of the breakdown of a real case that I've seen at one of the properties that I own. So we did an entrance interview when the person moved into the park, and we kind of wanted to understand, hey, why did you choose to live here? Because it was a young couple, right? They just graduated college from Auburn University, and we just wanted to see, hey, what motivated you to choose us? They were looking at in this small town of Alabama. I know most of you probably from New York. These numbers are blowing your mind that there's even a house for 200,000. But that's the market, right? Tallahassee, Alabama, a mobile or a regular stick-built house sells for 200,000. So their options just coming out of college, they don't have a lot of money. They're looking at a FHA loan, so about 7,000 out of pocket, and then they're going to have a monthly mortgage of around 1,575. Which, I mean, we all know housing today is extremely expensive. But that's just kind of the nature of where things are. Now, what they ended up doing is they bought this house right here. It's a used mobile home that basically someone used as a trade-in to buy a brand new home, just like you would with a car. And when they did that, the dealership didn't want it, so they just sold it for cheap. So they were able to buy this entire 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,200 square foot house for $3,000. So we helped them with the moving costs to get it over to the property. And then they spent, I want to say in this particular case, they spent about $8,000, but typically we see anywhere from like $4,000 to $10,000 for the tenants to renovate the home themselves. And they're paying $400 lot rent. So they spent about what they would have as a down payment. And the only thing out of pocket that they have that's different is the $400 lot rent. So they're debt free and they're saving about $1,100 a month. So you can kind of see like this is historically, this hasn't been quite as big a gap, but right now, especially, it is an incredibly large gap. And this is what's motivating more and more young people, I would say, to live in these, because what's interesting about it is they know they're not going to get equity, but you don't necessarily need to be building equity at home if you're saving $1,000 a month. And that's what we've noticed across a lot of our communities, that tends to be the thought process that a lot of them have. So it's an interesting model, but it is becoming more and more popular because of how expensive things are getting. In terms of macro tailwinds that we're seeing, we're all aware tariffs right now are shaking up how things are going. But I think what we've seen as a whole is that it seems like America is trying to bring manufacturing back in-house, right? I think COVID really started this. People saw how supply chains could get screwed up. So I think there's a lot of companies out there who are realizing, even if it's more expensive in America, they can predict it. There's not as many black swan events that can totally screw that up like something like COVID did. So we see a lot of manufacturing coming back to the Southeast, especially, right? All of the properties I own are in the Southeast. I used to live in Alabama, so it's a pretty growing market. But the best thing about manufacturing is that it's actually a really, really common job for mobile home tenants, right? Not a lot of them work a corporate job and make 100+ thousand. They're typically on the lower income level. But manufacturing jobs are typically really, really good jobs. So with more of that coming back on shore, I think we're going to see and even higher demand in the amount of mobile home tenants. This one, and is probably the most popular slide of this whole thing, especially given that it's like a tax group, is the depreciation. So if you'll remember, right, I mentioned like, hey, a mobile home park, you're essentially just buying and renting land. And we all know you can't depreciate land without ending up in jail for doing that, right? But mobile home parks have a unique aspect to them, is that when you do a cost segregation study on one of these, they basically take just the raw land value if it was not a park, and that's your land value. The rest of the value of what you paid for that park typically falls in the class of 15-year or less depreciable assets. So you got your roads, sometimes power lines, water lines, sewer lines. All of those are usually 15-year assets in terms of depreciation. And so it's great to be able to write it off quicker. Of course, right now with the current tax code, bonus depreciation wise, there is a ton you can write off. One of the ones we just bought in Kentucky, it came back, and we're going to be able to write off 77% year one, right? So especially if it goes back to 100% this year, which I'm hopeful it does, that would mean, hey, 70% of what we paid, we can write off this year. As of right now, it's 40% of that 77%. So it's still pretty good. But yeah, it would just be icing on the cake, right? And so I hate to admit this, but I owned 5 parks before I ever even knew what a cost segregation study was. I just naively thought like, hey, it's land. There's not much to depreciate anyways, right? But once I had an expert on the subject kind of walk me through and why they're so good at it, it made total sense. So yeah, we've kind of mentioned this before, and here's a great picture of a mobile home getting delivered. And you can tell it's specialized equipment. You need a crew out there for a day or two to get it all set up. You got to then connect all the utilities. So it is not like an RV you pick up with a truck and just pull where you got to go, right? And so this leads to a really, really stable asset. A lot of times what we're buying are parks that are really, really undervalued. Like the park owner just hasn't done anything to them in years. And we do a lot of dramatic changes in terms of fixing it up and charging higher rates. And the owners are always afraid that everybody's going to move out. And then what we see is, hey, a year later, the tenants are really happy with the new ownership. They're paying sometimes double what they were before, but they're happy with it because the community's better. Really what it comes down to in terms of why 2025 is such a good time is because so many of the park owners out there are part of the silver wave, right? They're the baby boomers who are looking to retire. And it leads to a lot of cool things in that they're usually debt free. So we can get really cool seller financing terms. And there's just a lot of easy, accessible equity that we can add to the property quickly just by operations and not necessarily having to spend hundreds of thousands on renovations. One of the interesting things about mobile home parks, they're one of the only real estate assets that personally, I don't think they get developed like other real estate assets. A lot of times the story on how a park came to be is that somebody owned land or they inherited land from their parents and they were free and clear on the land. Somebody approached them 2 decades ago about bringing in a mobile home and they allowed it. And over time, it just kind of slowly grew into this park. So the owners are not real estate people. They're not developers. They don't look at things like a cap rate. And so they run things in a very old school fashion. And there's a lot of opportunity to run these properties correctly today. Lastly, one of the things that I think is unique pretty much to mobile home parks alone is the feasibility of how you can actually refinance and hold that property indefinitely. You don't see that with things like multifamily as much. You typically see 5 to 10 year holding patterns, 10 years probably being the longest, because what do you do when you buy an apartment building, right? You do all these improvements to it. You spend a lot of CapEx. Well, 10 years go by and you've probably got to redo that. And it doesn't make sense for people to raise money to fix the property they already own, so they just sell it. Well, in a mobile home park, if you pull your money out, there's not a lot of major expenses that can't be included in a budget or a really, really small refinance. Like pretty much the biggest one you're going to have is roads. They typically have a 20-year lifespan. And in that amount of time, you can easily set aside enough money, or you've built enough equity to do a small refinance and pay for the road. So you can really actually hold these things indefinitely, which I think is personally, I think that's a huge advantage. That way you're not just constantly having to make sure you're timing the market perfectly. If you get an asset you like, you can just keep it. Yeah, and this is kind of just breaking down that numbers, right? So in a sample purchase, let's say you bought it for 850, you did some improvements, you're able to get the lot rents up. Um, you could refinance at 65% loan to value when you get the value up. That looks like a huge value jump, but it's really quite common in the mobile home park space. And then your capital is out of it. You don't have to worry about depreciation recapture because you're not selling it as an exit strategy. You can just continue to hold it, which I think is a really, really unique opportunity for this asset. And that's basically it. I appreciate you guys listening, and any questions you guys got, I'm all ears.
Yeah, we I really like the numbers here, and if we see what we hope to see in July or so, some tax law changes. When you factor in the tax savings, you can write off like almost 70% of this asset, and you're using other people's money to acquire the asset, and you do a cash out refi. It's like you pretty much are investing into this thing for free before you factor in the cash flow of these investment vehicles. So we have folks who they can't find a good deal. They have real estate professional tax status, and they have a tax burden or maybe a capital gain event. So let's say you don't have rep status, but you have a cap gain event. This is just a really advantageous way to deploy your capital to get a huge chunk. And if we get back to 100% bonus, which everyone thinks we will, I mean, you're pretty much, it's like your down payment is free when you factor in the tax savings for some of these folks. It's really cool stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Yeah. Anyone in the Zoom chat as well. Let me make sure that everybody's capable of. Yeah, if you guys want.
To change because the present color payment, and so here's what we're going to do about this.
I'm not sure that that's a question or someone just. Anybody else got any questions?
How'd you
Comments?
get in?
I think Robert was asking how'd you get into this before his internet. He's in the elevator, I could tell. I think he was in. Are you in the elevator? No, he couldn't make it.
How did I get into it?
Did you hear me?
Yeah, was that the
Yeah.
question? How did I get into this?
Well, yeah, you mentioned started off in brokerage. So how was that presented to you versus any of the other type of asset classes like multifamily or retail,
Yeah, great question.
office, or what else?
Well, it was really just about just kind of a right place, right time. My brother-in-law had just left his construction job and went to work at a firm that sold mobile home parks. And at the time, I was just like completely mind blown. I was like, "What are you doing? Like, you're going to go sell trailer parks for a living? How is that going to work?" And he said, "Hey, come shadow me." And I shadowed him, and it was really exciting. Like the people he was talking to that were the property owners are everyday people. So he was just having a conversation with them, almost acting like a retirement planner. Like they've owned the asset 30 years. They were scared of what to do once they didn't have it. At that point in time, I was still in the Navy. I was working a night shift, basically as a cryptologist. And I knew I wanted to get out, so it was the easiest opportunity for me. They were flexible with my hours, and yeah, it was right place, right time. Honestly, I didn't really look at many other asset classes.
How do you find these deals? Are they on CoStar and LoopNet, or what's the yeah? Elaborate a little bit further on how do you get into it? Where are they located, and how easy is it to barriers of entry? Because it's pretty hard in Atlanta to acquire. So a lot of people have to go outside of Atlanta, Cartersville, and other smaller areas to get started. What
Yeah,
about with this asset?
yeah, and that's a perfect point. So in terms of where you find them, as a broker, I wasn't about when I wanted to start buying them. I didn't want to go out and just talk to other brokers because I was still brokering at the time. It was weird, but so I just started cold calling people directly. Right, I'd find the address on. There's actually the Department of Homeland Security did this big survey to locate all the mobile home parks in the country for disaster preparedness reasons, and we got access to that and basically went through the list calling the property owners, and that's how I'd say to date of the 10 parks, all 10 have been off market 9 of them were directly going to the seller. 1 of them was from a wholesaler. So that's one of the biggest roadblocks to getting into the industry in terms of barriers to entry. It takes time to find the deals. Part of that has to do with just how simple it is in terms of an asset. When we used to broker, we could send somebody a 20 lot park or a 200 lot park. It didn't really matter. We sent them the lot numbers, the lot rent, and the utility structure, and basically the buyers out there would reverse engineer their own financials and go out and make an offer based off that. And so as a broker, it's really not worth the time to sit down and develop an operating memorandum and all that sort of stuff, and then list this and talk to a bunch of people who aren't serious, when you can get essentially an email worth of bullet points, send it to a buyer, and they'll buy it. So that's why I think compared to other assets, they happen pretty much all off market. The other part of it is a lot of the mom and pops, they're not motivated to sell. And so the conversation they usually have when they talk to a broker is, hey, I don't want to list it, and I'm not looking to sell it, but if you bring me an offer, I'll entertain it. And so just naturally, the entire industry essentially exists off market. At least the really, really good deals, you'll see a ton of them listed, but I really don't think it's worth the time. Most of the ones that are listed have either been completely maximized, and if you're a buy and hold investor, maybe that's fine. But as a value add guy, there's really nothing happening on the market.
So how would we get started?
I'd say cold call is probably the way, or find a broker.
How do we get that list?
I could send it to you, but it's publicly available.
Really?
Yeah. The weird thing about mobile home parks, though, is that they're not zoned a lot of times. They're just, like I mentioned, how they came to be. They're not zoned mobile home park. And so Reonomy, PropStream, all those kind of groups out there, none of them really have a concise database of where they all are and all the owner information. So you have to do a lot of legwork because that list just has the address, doesn't have anything else. You got to do a lot of legwork to find who owns it. Yeah. And a lot of them, at least the ones I work on, are in counties that are, especially in the Southeast, a lot of them are not modernized counties. So some of them don't have tax records online yet and all that sort of stuff. So that's where most of the time is spent.
You could also, Jeff, aren't you raising capital? I think if anybody here wanted to, they could invest with you, right?
Yeah, definitely. That's the easiest way to start. Let me do the work. But yeah, definitely.
Cool.
How do people reach out to you, Jeff?
If you want to share that contact screen one last time,
Yeah,
and we'll send you guys the slide deck as well. I'll send you follow up email.
Thank you, Jeff and Mark.
Yeah, totally.
Jeff, where are you based out of again?
So I'm based out of Denver, Colorado. So I don't know anything here, but I used to live in Alabama. That's kind of why I got started there. And most of what I have is 8 of the parks are in Alabama. But yeah, that's another cool thing I like about parks. They're pretty easy to operate remotely. Like they're not, as long as they're tenant-owned homes, meaning we don't have to maintain the homes as well. It's a pretty easy asset to operate.
Beautiful. Anybody else got anything to say before we let Jeff run?
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, we got a bunch of other people who joined while you were talking. They all found it really interesting to dive deep into this stuff, and we'll send your info out, and just hopefully this expanded your horizons and perception of what's possible in the world of wealth building and real estate investing, right, Patra? And and anybody wants to take my free tax planning checklist and course, go to taxplanningchecklist.com. You guys have a wonderful those of you who are here in person, we're gonna hang out and have some snacks. So you missed out on the party, you should be in the Commerce Club. And if you're not a member, you should join. And for the rest of you guys going virtual, you guys enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah. Have a good one, you guys.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Take care.